what we saw actually with all the partners gathering in their networks, in their surroundings, the best practice cases, is that actually 50% of the documented best practice cases are officially protected, either directly listed or part of a conservation area. The other 50% considered in their decisions the heritage aspects voluntary. Yeah, so there was a wish in those project teams to consider the heritage value, even if they were not forced to. Next slide, please. What you find in the HiBERatlas is, and I think this is important to point out, actually implemented projects. This is not feasibility studies. This is not something which is planned for the future. This is actually real refurbishments which have been implemented in the last, I think, more or less 10 years. We always pointed out that it's important that it is a whole building renovation, that it is not just coming one measure to be added, not just, this happens in practice often that as an owner, you have a first contact to one specific enterprise which proposes their solution, and then you kind of are stuck and you have or just the PV plant, or you have just new windows, or you have just done some small parts. But I think it's important, or the whole consortium thought it's important that you look at the whole building and you find solutions for the whole building. And then, of course, it might depend on the building, and you will end up with one solution only because it's the only feasible. Then this is result of a bigger process. It was important for us that the projects were both ambitious in terms of bringing the energy demand down, and ambitious also in evaluating the heritage compatibility of the solutions. And then, of course, we looked for cases where actually the documentation of also technical solutions was available. How is it now documented? It starts with images, and then it brings some key aspects, key figures. This is a bit because we think that keeping historic buildings in use can only be done if we show that they are actually attractive living space, and this is finally the best way to protect them. So the images just to trigger people to say, oh, I want this too for my building. Yeah. Next slide, please. Then the next section actually looks at the architecture, at the building which is there, at its values. It tries to explain in simple words and with images what are the heritage values, what are the important things to preserve, what is maybe also the condition of the envelope before the intervention, what were the specific needs. So looking at the whole building and its values, its status. And only after that, we actually go to the solutions. Yeah, they come after we have understood the buildings. And it looks at solutions of the envelope, of the windows, roof, ground floor. And you see that most of these short description here have two paragraphs, one describing the intervention and one explaining why this intervention was possible, was energy conservation compatible in this specific case. If you're talking about historic buildings, we cannot just copy without analyzing what has been done in one building to the next one. But there is a good potential that if we understand why it fitted there, we can understand whether it fits also for our building. And then, of course, we tried again here to have it with as many building photos, images, also from construction site and so on, to make it understandable what was actually done. Next slide, please. You see here the whole variety of interventions which were done, and you see also that it is not the same in each building. Yeah, there are different things which can be done. It will depend on the single building what is feasible there. And I think I would support very much also Marco Mari's position beforehand. I think if we're looking at historic buildings, we actually should look at more than just the energy renovation or the energy aspects. It is a variety of values. It includes the heritage values. It includes also looking at the whole life cycle. And I think heritage has quite an experience in looking at life cycles. So there might also be something to learn from society, from heritage. Next slide, please. And the last part of the HiBERatlas is actually bringing together some numbers. It looks at, for example, what was reached in terms of indoor comfort, what was reached also in terms of energy consumption.